We're talking about building houses on the Mount of Transfiguration. And we showed how that now even Paul comes into the picture by speaking of us being changed into the image of Jesus Christ as we look at his face like glory shining. Just like his face shone like the sun on the Mount of Transfiguration. And that Paul said it's the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus that shines on us, in our hearts. Peter said, we take heed as a light that shines in a dark place until the day dawn and the day star arise in our hearts and we start shining. We're changed into his image. We take his divine nature and we are ourselves manifesting that light, spiritually speaking. When Jesus said, I never knew you, in Matthew 7, to the Lord, Lord criers, he was saying that there was no knowledge of Jesus in their hearts because his light was unable to shine in them and change them into his image. That's why he's saying, I don't know you. You're not like me. You haven't partaken of my divine nature. You didn't listen to my words and do them. Not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, enters into the kingdom, but he that does the will of the Father. Shining light of the knowledge of Jesus into us is knowing Jesus. And the Word is light or truth. It's what he said. When his face shone like the sun, it's no coincidence that the Father said, hear ye him. That represented the truth he was speaking. His word is like light that shines into our hearts. If we don't hear, we don't open our hearts and the light doesn't get in. Our hearts love. And that's why knowing Jesus or mutually loving him is associated here with receiving his word into our hearts, like light into our hearts. Therefore, our house is on the rock of transfiguration. Jesus was transfigured that day in Matthew 17. But so are we, spiritually speaking, as we receive his light or truth and thereby build our calling and elections, our houses, on the rock and make them sure. Being changed into his image is being transfigured. The same Greek word translated as transfigured in Matthew 17 is translated as changed in 2 Corinthians 3 and 18. We are changed into his image from glory to glory as we behold his glory. 2 Peter 1 and 3. According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through the knowledge of him that hath called us unto glory and virtue. All things that Peter referred to include the preaching and the gifts of the Spirit, etc. All these things are provided for us so that we might go to this place of glory. All of that is intended to deal with life and godliness in our lives, to make our callings steadfast and our elections sure, to build our houses on the rock. And the reason it is a rock or mountain of transfiguration is because when we hear his words and do them, we are changed into his image. And an important point is that the Father told the disciples to hear Jesus, listen to him. That was in Matthew chapter 17. Now in previous chapter 16 of Matthew, we saw Peter receive a revelation from the Father. The Father spoke to Peter about Jesus Christ's identity. But then Jesus told Peter, I say also unto thee. In other words, now the Son has words to speak. Peter, you haven't received this from flesh and blood. My Father revealed this to you. You've got a revelation. You said, I am the Christ, the Son of the living God, when I asked you who I am. You heard the Father speak. But now I, the Son, say also to you. You've got an additional revelation you need to hear, Peter. Look at it. Matthew 16, verses 15 to 17. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. The Father gives the identity of Jesus when he speaks to Peter. Matthew 16 and 18, and I say also unto thee. Somebody else is going to say something to you now, Peter. And it's not the Father this time, it's the Son. That thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Now remember, this is before Matthew 17 and the Mount of Transfiguration, where Peter wanted to build tabernacles. He said, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. His words include building a house on a rock. The Father gave Jesus Christ's identity to Peter, but Jesus Christ spoke words that give Peter's identity, but also involve building a house on a rock. The picture is that you can build any old house with the Father's revelation of who the Son is. People who call Jesus Lord have heard from the Father. Remember Matthew chapter 7? Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom, but he that does the will of the Father. And Jesus proceeded to say that you're building on a rock when you hear my words and do them. So number one, the Father and his revelation is a stepping stone to the revelation that the Son gives. And the Son's revelation will build your house on a rock. Just knowing Jesus is Lord won't do it. That's just the revelation. You need the second revelation. You need the further revelation. People who call Jesus Lord have heard from the Father. They got the first revelation. It's not from flesh and blood. It's good. But it's not good enough. We must add to our faith. That's why Jesus said people will call him Lord and yet not be able to enter the kingdom. But Jesus said, Jesus, must know you before you enter into the kingdom. And you must hear his words next and do them, and as well as understand his identity. A lot of people understand his identity but don't do his words. And hearing his words and doing them is building a house on a rock. People don't like to hear the Son's words. That involves doing something. That puts us on the rock. But to hear the Father's words, you don't have to do anything. Oh, Jesus is Lord. Lord, Lord, have we not done this in your name? But the Son's words involve doing something and not just hearing something. And too many are lazy to do anything. Let us not be like that. Peter said, be diligent and add to your faith. Diligent means with everything in you, put forth this effort. Diligent means with all your effort. And salvation is not by works, granted, but we must work to make our calling and election sure. Once we are saved, to keep it. Never to get it, just to keep it. In 2 Peter 1 and 10, wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if ye do these things, ye shall never fall. Our feet are supposed to be shod with the preparation of the gospel, according to the book of Ephesians chapter 6. Part of the armor. Preparation is a word that many people don't like. Effort is involved. Doing something is involved. There is something you must prepare. You must diligently make your calling and election sure. Your footing is the preparation of the gospel. Making something sure means it has a proper foundation or footing. And so your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel is saying the same thing as building a house on the rock. It's your foundation. Matthew 16 and 19, and I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Notice, whatever we bind on earth is bound in heaven. His will be done in earth as it is in heaven. All of this is associated with the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6, verses 9 to 10, and associated with Jesus' words in Matthew 7 and 21 about entering the kingdom.